When King of the Monsters came out, I couldn't help but laugh at all these stupid articles being written by people from like Huffington Post and BuzzFeed, exclaiming that they finally, like they've been waiting for years, there is a female presence within a kaiju film. Well, a lot of you who are in Geeks for Geeks know exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, this is where I read a lot of these articles that were posted there. But the reason I shake my head at this is because those authors clearly haven't seen a single kaiju flick, let alone, you know, a Godzilla film, or even bothered to research one. Because, like, the horror genre, the kaiju genre has always had strong women characters, especially in Godzilla, which is what I'm going to focus on here today, specifically Godzilla. And what started this fascination into the subject was actually recent, because I read an article by Steve Rifle on the Criterion Collection website. He wrote about Ishiro Honda, stating, "Many Honda films of this period," and he's referring to the films made between 1954 and 1961, "center on the plight of women in a male-dominated post-war society, somewhat resembling the work of the great director Mikio Naruse." Now, I'm no fan of Mikio Naruse, but that's not the focus here. That's Honda. What I am focusing on is Honda's focus on women within his films. And while Honda didn't direct all of the Godzilla movies, he was the one to really spearhead them. So let's look at the original Godzilla, where the protagonist is arguably Emiko Yamane. Emiko has the role that really set the Honda standard we'd see in the 1960s for female characters in his work. Often they are the moral center of the film. Emiko is the character literally faced with betraying her own conscience with that of seeing Godzilla's destruction. Do you betray Serizawa, arguably one of your best friends, even more than cheating on him with Ogata, or let Godzilla continue his reign of destruction? And her decision to betray Serizawa is painful and agonizing, but ultimately the right one, and it leads to Serizawa's own death. So while Honda's women in his tokusatsu kaiju flicks between 1955 and 1961 were pretty typical damsel in distresses, like in Rodan and the Mysterians, those are the two that come to my mind, or the H-Man, it wasn't until Mothra did we see a change in pace. In terms of Godzilla, you have Yuriko Oshii in both Mothra vs. Godzilla and Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster playing basically the same character. In one, she is a bit of a bumbling idiot, Lucille Ball, as David Callett would put it, but whose heart is always in the right place, playing off well against the stone-cold Akira Takarada. And she is the one ultimately who convinces the natives on Mothra's island to help them out in defeating Godzilla. Now that's a pretty important role. Let's take that up a notch, though, in Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster. She's even stronger, being assigned her own job, finding the prophetess and scooping her out. In the Japanese version, she's even stronger of a female protagonist than in the American cut. She's the one in charge here, like Takarada was in the previous film. And speaking of those two movies, we also have the Shobijin, played by the Peanuts. They go from being the ones in trouble within the first Mothra film to taking charge and making decisions in their last appearance in Ghidra the Three-Headed Monster, and a little bit in Mothra vs. Godzilla. They go from being trapped by the evil Nelson to being the ones who call upon Mothra to unite Godzilla and Rodan to save the world. No victims they, as David Callett would put it. We've got Namikawa, played by Kumi Mizuno in Invasion of the Astro Monster, portraying the most rounded character within the movie. Steve Rifle actually put it best, as she goes from being a computer cog to a woman swayed by her love for Nick Adams. Okay, sure, it's not well written and it's silly like the rest of that really fun film, but yet that's still a pivotal role. I could also talk about her more developed roles as the sympathetic doctor in both Frankenstein Conquers the World and War of the Gargantuas, but I've already done those in my episodes of Ishiro Honda-thon. In Honda's last film, we have Katsura, played by Tomoko Ai, and, Yeah, if she isn't the moral center of that film, I don't know what is. She's basically a similar version of Namikawa from Invasion of the Astro Monster, but more developed and impactful. She is the cog that goes from being an eager little girl willing to help her father, arguably then being killed by her father, then rebuilt as a cyborg to control both Mechagodzilla and Titanosaurus, which is disturbing the more you think of it. And then we also then go to her learning her father is wrong and regaining her humanity that she lost by falling in love with a man, to killing herself to stop Mechagodzilla. Yeah, that's... Talking about Katsura is worthy of a podcast of its own, because that's some heavy shit. But Honda also had villains, and we all love good villains, am I right? Kind of like Maleficent in the original Sleeping Beauty. She comes to mind as like a female villain that I just adore. You just gotta love her, and I mean the one from the animated film Sleeping Beauty. So we've got the key locks and their ice-cold threats, Kyoko Manabe's scary smile as she directs the monster attack in Destroy All Monsters. You know, it was extremely memorable, and leaving the men in the film chasing after them. Sure, these aren't really well-developed characters, but they really are cool ones nonetheless. But as I said earlier, Honda wasn't the only one to direct Godzilla films. In the Showa films, the other director to really leave an impact on the franchise besides Honda was actually Jun Fukuda, who also liked to have strong women in his films, though they're more physically tough than they are morally. For example, we have Dio, played by Kumi Mizuno, in Godzilla vs. The Sea Monster, a tough islander, fighting her way out of bad situations, even saving some of our bumbling male characters. She's quick thinking, too, like when, she captures the dove and uses it as a distraction when sneaking into the Red Bamboo's base. That's just one of the many examples that comes to mind. Then you have Psycho, kind of a parallel character, in Son of Godzilla, who had the benefit of being the only woman within that film. And, also having, a small cast of human characters to work with as well. And she's got more of a soft-hearted attitude to the, more hardened scientist. For example, of her lightheartedness, she feeds baby Godzilla, or she's joking with the Kirakubo, she's playful, and just to name a part of her being pivotal for the film, it's her that saves the crew members from dying by knowing the disease that they are all afflicted with and knowing where to get the antidote. In 1972, we got, Godzilla vs. Gigan. Certainly that had a strong woman in it with Tomoko, who's kicking and beating bad guys with her karate moves. She's got a black belt in karate. She saves our heroes multiple times in rather comical ways, which is part of why I find the final two acts of the film so enjoyable with its colorful human cast. And Godzilla vs. Megalon... The main female role in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is, the one who knows what King Caesar is, and she is the one that begins our hero's journey to stop the evil space apes. So while not as deep as Honda's women, they certainly didn't lack for their powerful personality and color. Then comes the Heisei series, which takes the role of women to a whole new level. For example, Miki Sagusa is the most recurring human character in all 30 of the Godzilla films, which is an accomplishment. And over the course of 6 films, she goes from being a plot device and a timid little girl to a woman battling with her own morals, to taking full control of a major sect of G-Force. She's certainly no victim. She starts off as one and sort of becomes a fascinating character to dissect, and I actually did so in the previous episodes of the Godzilla vlogs. You also have minor characters like Erika, who is only in one scene before she is killed, but it is her soul that's in Biollante, making Biollante a female. And Biollante is always protecting her father, Dr. Shirogami. In Godzilla vs. Mothra in 1992, the entire subplot sub-theme is about divorce, separation, and how it affects children and peoples who split apart coming back together. And admittedly, I wish that was actually the main theme in the movie and not environmentalism. You have Masako, who is a protective mother, but also the definition of a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. She's always, bullying her ex-husband, making fun of him, and their bickering it's actually pretty funny and relatable, especially if you listen to the original Japanese language version of it. And yet the chaos of Mothra and Batra, hell, it brings both her and Takuya, her ex, closer, and they realize what they've done to their daughter. It's not the best written, sure, and it could have been handled a little easier, but the elements are there nonetheless. In Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, it goes much... That actually it harkens back to women being more of the moral center of the film. Baby Godzilla looks at Azusa as his mother. She becomes the voice of sympathy in what was a triad of morality. So you have Azusa, who has sympathy towards Godzilla, and Baby Godzilla is an extension. You have Mickey, another woman, who is duty. And then you have General Aso, who is the greater good. And it's interesting to think of and dissect that sort of triad of morality. And then finally we have Destroya. Jesus Christ. That is a woman-dominated movie. We got the reporter who, kickstarts the whole damn film. You have Mickey certainly coming full circle, and then Meru, who represents an entire new generation of people. So then, we jump over to the Millennium series, and that's basically the same formula as before, but two films, in particular, do something never done before in Godzilla history. Both Megaguirus and Mechagodzilla 2002 make their woman the protagonist of the film. While the other films have the human characters much more of an ensemble than a single human protagonist. Both Kiriko and Akane basically are the same character, a soldier who was responsible for something tragic which haunts her, and then her ultimate redemption in the end. Nothing groundbreaking for sure, but the actresses and the direction of Masaki Tezuka is strong, which makes them interesting. And the film doesn't hide the fact that she's a woman either, especially in Mechagodzilla, where soldiers often make fun of her because she has a vagina. And what I loved about Akane was that she never really addresses this outright. She never says, I'm a woman, and I'm strong, and blah, 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 and giving us, the lecture. The only lecture that she actually really gives is about, fighting, and keep pushing forward no matter what the odds. And that isn't about sex. That isn't about her having a vagina. That's just a general statement, a general philosophical idea. So the writers actually did something smarter in that movie. So what the writers did is she just proves herself. Only actions. There is a couple of lectures, but it's mainly her being motherly towards the little girl. And I think that resonates more with all audiences than being told outright what to feel and what to think. It also shows that the writers knew the audience had somewhat of a brain. But again, that sort of stems back to show, don't tell. In fact, Akane, I like so much that not bringing her back in Tokyo SOS, only giving her a cameo, I felt was that film's biggest blunder. And that's also really for another podcast as well. So look, King of the Monsters wasn't the first Godzilla movie to have a strong female presence. Far, far from it. And while I think a lot of what I said was stating the obvious for fans, to those getting into the franchise, there's more to it than meets the eye. And if you're a woman interested in the franchise, or even, a father who has a daughter that you'd like to introduce to Godzilla, but also want an important woman presence, hell, you got plenty of choices in this series. You got an entire spectrum to choose from moral females to physical females. That's also part of the benefit of not only, forward thinking in terms of the writers and the directors, but also just the mass appeal of this gargantuan franchise. So go on Facebook, like and Productions for all up-to-date information of what we're doing. And follow our website. Follow all of our social media. Links are in the description below. In the end, this is Adam Noyce of AN Productions saying sayonara.